London, to the rest of the world, Teva Pharmaceutical Industries is simply one of the world's biggest makers of generic drugs. In Israel, it is the corporate version of a national celebrity. The first homegrown, global success story and one of Israel's largest employers, Teva is both a source of pride and a symbol of the country's financial ambitions. Its place in the Israeli public's imagination is similar to the one General Motors, in its heyday, occupied in America, but in a nation with a population about the size of New York City's. The company's shares are owned by so many pension funds that it is known informally as the people's stock. Today, many of those people are furious. Management missteps and tectonic shifts in the pharmaceutical business have battered Teva, which faces declining prices for generic drugs and the loss of a patent on a major branded drug. More than $20 billion has been shorn from the company's market capitalization since 2017 began, cutting Teva's value roughly in half. Everyone in Israel knew that layoffs and plant closings were coming, but what was expected was something akin to painful trims. Instead, on December 14, Teva announced what amounted to an amputation. Roughly 14,000 jobs will be slashed, about one-fourth of the company's worldwide workforce, with 1,700 of those jobs based in Israel. Manufacturing plants will close and parts of the company will be sold. Bonuses were cancelled and the stock's dividend was suspended. About the only positive reaction to this news came from investors, who sent Teva shares up about 14%. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in a statement that he would urge the company to retain its Israeli identity, words that seemed to mollify no one. 3 days after Teva's announcement, some workers burned tires outside a Teva plant while others tied up rush hour traffic with street protests. It went beyond workers, with people across the country taking part in a half-day strike that closed banks, government institutions, the stock exchange and Ben Gurion International Airport near Tel Aviv. Teva employees continued to protest for days. There is uncertainty, fear, said Little Nahum, a 25-year-old lab worker who was sitting on a wall outside a Teva plant in Jerusalem last week, as 24 other striking workers milled around. Nobody thought it would come to this. With domestic plants targeted for closing, many people argued that Teva factories in India and Ireland should be closed before any in Israel. Mr. Netanyahu agreed and said that the government would use various means at our disposal to urge the company to keep its plants in Jerusalem open. Mr. Netanyahu did not specify what those means might be, but a guilt trip appeared to be his only weapon. Teva has enjoyed tax breaks and subsidies worth nearly $6 billion over the past decade. Whatever approach Mr. Netanyahu used, it did not work. A meeting on December 19 with Kara Schultz, Teva's recently hired chief executive, yielded little more than a curt statement from the Prime Minister's office announcing plans for studying ways to provide fired workers with training and to help them find new jobs. Mr.